Right. So, in the last session, we discussed about enterprise security architecture in context to the implementation of architecture for mm, enterprise applications, like developing some enterprise security for enterprise applications, etc. as part of the security analyst as well as security management role itself is concerned. Today, I'm going to discuss about the cyber security reference architecture because implementing cybersecurity principles, value systems are essentially required because most of the applications now and then, whatever are we going to use, all these applications were cloud applications at the same time web enabled. Whenever we are implementing in the organization level, enterprise level, all that. In connect to that, it's always important for us to reduce the kind of risk which is essentially involved whenever we are implementing different standards to reduce the cyber attacks, right? So because data, either it can be of any other form, right? So either it can be a healthcare data or it can be customer data like banking data, financial data. So protecting the data is always one of the key and prominent element. One has to be identified, one has to be understood with. In regard to that, whenever we try to reduce the risk which is involved in context to the data protection, there are different cyber security laws. There are different cyber security policies, standards, and procedures which has to be implemented, which has to be followed when we are working on the applications. So being into the role of a security analyst or a security management role, it's not only about managing the information security, managing the enterprise security, but also creating some cyber security rules and regulations, policies, procedures, and whatever the required firewalls to protect the malware in order to protect from the malware attacks and all everything is what is needed. This is where generally cyber security comes into picture. In reference to the cyber security, this is what and how usually cyber security reference architecture is all about, wherein we need to provide a detailed understanding over the identity management is what something which normally we do, right? So managing the identities, right? So followed by the kind of user interfaces what we are creating, right? So either these user interfaces may be used by the end users, whoever the users and all, right? End users are using it. Either it's not only an end users, even management people can be used at the same time, even legal staff or technical staff, all these people are using these user interfaces, etc. At the same time, not only creating these user interfaces and information sharing, even we need to implement the kind of libraries, whatever is required, because libraries, creating a libraries and managing the libraries is one of the core important element when we are developing cyber security standards, procedures, and all, right? So if you want to provide solutions, even understanding different libraries and creating libraries is also one of the key and important element to be focused. So in connect to that, whatever the high level security policies to be implemented, at the same time, the kind of security controllers, what is to be implemented in order to protect from the threats, whichever we have. So that providing some security services architecture is one of the core and important element wherein to provide, because being into the security manager role, right? So here I was mentioning here, because if you are into the security analyst role as a information security analyst or IT security analyst or a security management role, irrespective of the kind of designation are we going to play. So this is where generally the context of repository management is one of the core and important element wherein to connect with user interfaces and identity access, identity management is all something we do. In addition to that, it's always important for us to create some local agents like by implementing the kind of certification processes, followed by the kind of configurations, whatever is required. At the same time, whatever the kind of data are we going to manage, right? So how this data can be managed, followed by the kind of inspections in regular intervals, like because when there is any login process was initiated, so wherein we need to see whatever the login process or the functionality were implemented is something right on its whatever the right login credentials is not something which normally comes under the inspection point of view. At the same time, whatever the kind of network protocols you are going to implement, especially on the local agents. So for that, it is always important for us to create an API, because application programming interface is something required to create a communication between two different applications. This is what generally we call it as API is all about. So creating of API is what something normally we do. This is how generally a cyber security architecture is what something which has to be initiated with dynamic changes from the organization to organization, whatever the required cyber security policies, standards, and procedures we have to follow, wherein to develop cyber security reference architectures are one of the core and important element, being a security analyst, being a security management role, one has to be performed with. This is all about this session. So if you have any questions, if you have any queries, please go ahead.